30 hertz straight up.
Peace, 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 y'all. This is Empress Rena Nicole, and this is the AAM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up. Yes, it is Saturday, October the 15th, 2022, and the topic today is the 7 attributes to mindfulness. With that being said, keep in mind that we are streaming live from YouTube, Facebook, Clubhouse Dropping Audio app, Spoon Dropping Audio app, Twitter, and Anchor. With that being said, you can also find our podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and Anchor. Period. And also on our Facebook page. With that being said, if you are on Clubhouse, hit that greenhouse at the top and make sure you're following the club, Sustainable Relationships. If you're on Spoon app, make sure you're hitting that phone icon so I can bring you up to the stage and we can hear what you have to say on the 7 attributes to mindfulness. With that being said, I'm going to give y'all another 20 seconds of this beautiful music and we're going to get right into that topic. Period. Yes, y'all. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Saturday, period. Now, with that being said, our topic today is a real good one. The topic today is 7 attributes to mindfulness. If you notice, I said the number 7, which also relates to the 7 chakras as well. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that in a few minutes. Okay. Now, with that being said, I know you're wondering, like, what is the 7 attributes to mindfulness? What the? Dun, dun, dun. So literally, the 7 attributes to mindfulness, um, are basically some behavior patterns, core values. They are interconnected, and we're going to go down the list, right? Because when you practice one, it definitely leads into the other, because that's how interconnected they are. So there's no worries when it comes to that. Your ability to intertwine them to propel you forward in mindfulness is key. That's why we're going to give you all 7 today, right? Without all 7, you probably won't have that what you're looking for, what you're seeking. You probably won't, actually achieve it, because these are literally pillars that you need to successfully achieve mindfulness. Okay. Now, it's great to have a long-term goal of achieving mindfulness instead of a short-term goal, because all of these things in spirituality actually take work. It's not like, oh, I burned some sage and now my life is better. Period. What the? Because enough people, they like, everyone, and we speak about this a lot on this podcast. We talk about instant gratification. So many people that's all they care about, instant gratification. They want it now. Like, I need my money and I want it now. I am. Okay. So they really, they want, they want, they want to receive, but they're not really willing to give, even if it's to their self. And some people do give, but they give because they feel like, oh, if I don't give, people are going to talk about me. Or if I don't do this, then what are they going to think about me? So they're still living on that external version of themselves, which is seeking validation, okay? So those things, this is why I say that it's imperative to have these 7 pillars taken at your own pace, because if you try to rush through them, you're still going to be stuck in the same place you were, and you're still going to be living in that existence of external validation, right? And that's not really a healthy place to be. because that's in a place where you're not sure of yourself and you don't really know who you are. You're just always grasping at straws for the next opportunity or the next thing to actually try to figure out who you are. Okay, period. Now, with that being said, the first thing is non-judgment. It's a difference between judgment and discernment, right? Because mindfulness is about being compassionate, open hearted, and having choiceless awareness, okay? And it's definitely cultivated by taking positions in an unbiased, attentive, when you're actually living in your own present moment in your experience as it happens, okay? So, in order for you to achieve that non judgment altitude, right? You have to begin to relate to the contents of your experience without judging them at the present moment. It folds like, okay, like say if you're having an experience and you feel like, oh, I'm having a bad day, right? This is something I taught my clients in the past was you're not having a bad day. You may be experiencing a bad moment, or you may be experiencing a drop in energy, but it's not a safe place to put labels on just because you're experiencing right now. Okay, I'm not saying that people don't have bad days. That's toxic positivity, period. Okay. What I'm saying is, as the moment is happening, you don't have no reason to try to process it as it's happening. Sometimes we in situations where we have to. I get that. I understand that. So nose breathing, all those things can help, but life is life. Things happen fast, things happen quickly, and I wholeheartedly understand the instant moment of needing to process something really fast or to take it in really fast and make a decision. I get that, but if it's not an emergency, it's not like life threatening or anything of that nature, take your time and move through that, okay? Because you're not obligated to process in the moment as life unfolds for you. Like every second of the day, if you're processing every single thing, you're going to have high anxiety. You're going to worry yourself to death. You're going to be stressed out. Your hair's going to fall out. Your nails, you're going to go balding. Your edges, whatever. Both male and women, you're going to have some issues up in there. A lot of inflammation. You might gain weight. You might lose too much weight. A lot of things can happen from not like well a lot of things can happen from living in the external. You may self-medicate with drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, different things like that of that nature. Now, I'm not judging anyone. I'm just stating facts of things that people who live on the external may or may not do, because everyone doesn't do that. You get what I'm saying? And it's all like in the human nature. The thing that we do is, if anything, because a lot of people that judge other people, like I always say that, like if you always catch somebody just judging people, because I love to observe, I love to observe people. I love to study human behavior and analyze it. And I think that's a part of the reason why I use dropping audio, so I can listen to voices, I can listen to tones, I could just listen to people and analyze, where they're coming from, the tones behind their voice, the frequencies, because a lot of people that judge others are extremely behind closed doors, are horrible to themselves. Period. Um, and I'm not saying that people can't speak highly of themselves, because I want people to speak highly of themselves. I want people to be proud of themselves. It doesn't matter what I want anyway, because that's external. What I would want for someone else, that's external, right? So I would desire and send out energy for people to want that for themselves, to be successful, to be content, to be fulfilled, to be liberated, right? So what I'm saying is that when you are judging other people, it's literally not a part of you, right? Because it's a habit of categorizing the experience that it locks you into patterns, right? Of reacting and repeating thoughts, feelings, and behavior, okay? And you get locked in a cycle. It's almost like self-abuse, but it's a cycle of it, right? Because it's going to project it out to other people. You're definitely going to do that. So when you're judging X to separate you from a direct experience of each moment, and from unfolding reality of life, when you practice mindfulness, it's important to recognize the judging quality, of mind, and identify the judgmental thinking as it arises. That's literally taking us back into decluttering the mind, or consistent room that we have on that Clubhouse app, dropping audio. to help people develop tools so they can declutter their mind and reframe their automatic thoughts. But literally, when you are not reframing thoughts, when you're constantly allowing these thoughts to come in, you start to compare yourself. You start to live on the external. You start to judge people, and when you judge people, guess what? You're not judging them from what they're doing. You're judging them from your point of morals. Okay? So that's not mindful. Nothing about that is mindful, because if you're not in a direct synchronization with them, and you're not doing anything to help them, you're not building a community with them, and you're constantly putting out like, this is this and this is what it is, and you are not finding ways to be just kind and compassionate and empathize with other people, then you kind of like kicking your own self in the mouth, literally. Because what you're doing is you're projecting your version of what is right and wrong, instead of what is my yacht. That's balance, okay? What is yin and yang? Okay, I'll say yin and yang instead of my yacht. But when you're not using my yacht, okay, or yin and yang, excuse me again. I'm so used to saying my yacht. I'm so used to saying that. I apologize. Because I want people to understand what I'm saying. So when you're so used to just willy nilly judging people, like, oh, this person should do this because I would do that. That's the key sign that you are a judgmental person. The moment you say because I would do, you're comparing how they're living their existence to how you would live yours. And that has nothing to do with mindfulness. That has nothing to do with intelligence. That has nothing to do with anything that you probably think it has to do. That's all ego and that's all projection. Period. Okay. Now let's move right along, right? So the next one is patience. Patience is the ability to bear difficulty with zen and self control. Okay. It definitely requires a connection to your inner chi, your core. Okay. And also some courage, like some bravery. Okay. And like we just mentioned before, patience definitely requires a degree of kindness and compassion for yourself as you bear a situation or as you get into a situation. You got to have that kindness for yourself. Because if you're not kind to yourself, listen, I don't care how fake you are. I don't care how you project yourself to be a nice person. In your heart of hearts, you're really not a happy person, and you're really not going to treat people, you know, very nicely at the end of the day, because you're so torn up inside, or the opposite, because everything is duality, or it's a lot of nuances to a lot of things, and I'm like the nuance empress because I love nuances. Yes. So I'm not going to go over the 1,000 nuances of patience today. Maybe another day we can do some key tools to patience. But another nuance is the other side, where you are projecting happiness, and you're doing these things and you actually feel good about them. But in the end of the day, you're still not able to get the last bit of that key function to get, that full mindfulness or that full liberation for yourself. But there's like 1,000 other ways you can get that, breakdown of patience as well. So it's like a certain wisdom that comes with patience, okay? Because often impatience arises when the ego and the self-centered parts of people, it literally is like a toddler screaming for things to be different than they actually are. Like, when you literally, it's like we just said it in the beginning, about how you want something, you want it now, you don't want to wait, you feel like you waited too long, you feel like everybody else is getting blessed, or everybody else is being favored, everyone else is receiving in abundance and you're not, and you're doing all the work. I can go on and on and on to the break of dawn. Okay. Okay, and I won't. So literally, with that wisdom, it definitely recognizes that things have a life cycle of their own, right? um and everything comes to an end, literally. And sometimes people say, oh, well, the ends justify the means. Most people that are patient say those things, or some people that are impatient say those things, like when you think about duality, maybe some people that are impatient may say those things. um you know and another thing I want to talk about really fast is that a lot of people mix up patience with tolerance, right? It's a slippery slope, and I'm going to do a room on that. I'm going to do a episode on that. The difference between patient and tolerance. But a lot of people think that because they tolerate stuff that they have patience for it, or they don't. Like that's really not the truth, because you can't fake patience. You can't fake tolerance either. So if you are like pretending to be cordial, and you're not speaking up for yourself, and you're not using effective communication, you're not being mindful, you're not being empathetic, compassionate, nurturing, you're not doing these things, men and males and women, right? If you're not doing these things, then you are ultimately going to suffer, because guess what? You're projecting those things outside of you. It's almost like a regurgitation of spirit, okay? Of trauma, of hurt, of pain. And it's just shooting out of you into the atmosphere. And everything around you in your environment is going to get sick, or affected, whatever way you want to think of it. Like, think of it that way. When you're not doing that self work, you're projecting out everything ugly about yourself, whether you think you are or not. Even if it's just like in undermining tones, or you're at home and you're tearing yourself to shreds. You do self effacing behaviors. You do things that won't liberate you, and they won't, but you still do them, right? So when you're not patient, and you don't acquire that wisdom of what patience can give you, right? And you're not open to receive the energy of being patient and do the work of being patient, you are going to suffer. Okay, I don't mean to be all somber. Like, I'm not trying to be somber town up in this joint. Okay, but the more patient you are, it's like the more you're gonna grow, right? Because the ego is always not calling. Like, it's not always calling. It's not always setting the tone. It's not always the ego. Okay, so a lot, like, if you think about it, if you just wait a minute and you actually just wait and breathe, sometimes you forget what you even being patient for. You know, um, sometimes people, for some reason, the society we live in is like elitist, like capitalism, and I'm not blaming anything on anything. I'm just an observer, like I said, and I use these observations to teach other people to how to break things down and actually have a manageable existence. So, with that being said, it's like when you go out there into the world and you see things and you see how people don't, people get, hurt or injured or taken away from this world because people don't have patience to actually stop and communicate or listen or actually help someone else, or just not believe something that someone told them. It's, the scenarios can go on and on and on, but it's just unfortunate because a lot of people do not have patience, and they actually really literally lack the tolerance to even understand other people, so anyway. But I just wanted to add that into because the tendency to rush through one moment to get to the next is literally like impatience. That's really the meaning of it, and you cannot recognize your truth, because how can you recognize your truth if you're rushing through things? How can you stop and reevaluate? How can you process? How can you see where you're coming, like what point you're growing from to the next? You cannot do that, you know. And if you're measuring that by like money or school or something like that, and you're not measuring it by anything internal, then you may have some discrepancies with how you're measuring yourself, and you might want to reevaluate. Okay, so um, excuse me. Now, the next part of the seven keys to mindfulness is nine striving, right? Because we literally spend a lot of our existence doing things and trying to change things. Unfortunately, you know, Captain Save a Bro, Captain Save a Sis. That's just literally we have a habit of doing, and it carries over into our existence, and it definitely can be a real problem. I can give you an example of I had a friend and we were talking. Well, we would talk a lot. Okay, we would talk a lot, like and he was a male. Okay, and we would talk a lot. And one day he got so upset, and he's like, I'm like, why are you screaming and yelling and crying at me? He's like, because you're telling me all these problems, and then you're telling me that you don't want me to fix it. He's like, go talk to your girlfriends, because this is crazy. I just want to fix your problems. You don't want me to fix them. You just want me to listen. He said, I'm not a woman. And I was like, misogyny.org. Hello? But then I realized that in his mind, he was someone that came in to fix problems. Anything other than that, like if it's not a problem, why are you telling me? If you don't want to solve it with these solutions, then why are you telling me? Because I'm as a friend, I'm coming to help you. I'm going to give you these things, these tools. You can take them or leave them. But for you to always reject the tools or, go back and forth with the tools, then it makes me feel like I'm wasting my time. Like I'm not valued as a person. And I'm only here for a listening ear. And it didn't make that person feel respected. Neither here or there, but that was a point I had to make with the non-striving, because a lot of the times the ego wants it wants to get more of what it likes, and it wants to get rid of what it doesn't like. So instead of even taking advice, I'm like, no, I don't want that. I just want you to listen, and that person didn't feel valued, and I had to check myself before I wrecked myself, period. Okay. So I'm glad that I have people around me that can actually, effectively communicate when they feel like something's wrong, or they're not sure of what's going on, or how can we fix this. I have a better appreciation for that, because in the past it was like, okay, like it was a more nonchalant thing where I didn't think too much of it. Not a non-empathetic thing, just a thing where it's like, maybe you're just reaching. Maybe you're reaching out and touching the stars, because that's not what I meant. And that's a long story, but yeah, anyway, I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. It's literally the pressure to do and to change. I guess it made that person felt like they was like, doing so much and they weren't getting any results, because like me, the person wasn't receiving. But anyway, so back to the topic at hand, because the practice of mindfulness involves simply paying attention without judgment, literally, you know um to whatever is happening. So in a sense, we can use like practices like meditation, and we also can use yoga, because it's a unique human activity. That's why, right? So meditation is not about doing. It's not about non doing. It's about doing, right? So if you practice meditation, it's like a practice of being, not doing. So people are like, oh, I'm going to go do some meditation. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's literally a practice of being in a meditative state. Okay. It's not about going to go do it, or it's like a chore, or it's like a routine. It's literally like prayer. Meditation is prayer. Is a connectivity to the most high, or whatever you believe in, the universe, ancestors, Allah, whatever you may believe in. Definitely that's what meditation is for you. Right. So it's definitely like a unique human activity. And the interesting thing about meditation, because it isn't about doing, like non-doing instead of doing, is that when you feel a sense of striving, or you're trying to change things, you notice that you're doing it without judging yourself. Like say for instance, if you're praying, or you're crying in your meditative state, or like whatever you're doing, like you're being emotional, you're having your emotions out, and when you're in a deep emotional state, sometimes you do judge yourself. But like if you're crying and you're cleansing your soul and your spirit, you are just releasing, right? And you're not in the moment like, oh, I'm so this and I'm so that. Like you might say things that's a little, crazy sometimes. But if you just think back to a time where you just felt really emotional, and you're like, you know what, I just need to breathe. I need to just get through this, because you want to take yourself back to Zen. You want to somehow pull yourself back, from that place, to get yourself back to one, right? Because if you didn't, you felt like that, oh, this can get out of control, and I need to be in this meditative state, because I'm allowing myself, you're not judging. You're not judging yourself. You're just making that discernment, and you're recognizing what needs to happen, and you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to do this, but this is what's being done. If that makes any sense, I hope y'all understand. So literally, when you're being like this way with yourself, like clear, and compassionate, awareness happens. It just happens. Like you become more self-aware. And when you're self-aware, you're really not a judgmental person. Okay. And you do have more patience than the next person. And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to compare them, just because that's the topic today. So we're talking about, because literally comparison is the theft of joy. If you don't want no joy, go ahead and keep comparing yourself. Keep on comparing yourself. You won't have any joy at all. The hardest one for me in the 7 steps of mindfulness is acceptance because of grief. Like a lot of people go through grief and experiences in life. So acceptance was always hard for me. So I just avoided it. Like I just like, oh, okay, and the older I became, I realized that I just have to accept things for what it is. It's out of my hands, it's out of my control. And I'm trying to tell you that when you accept things for what they are, it's literally like this process that happens within your whole being, and you begin to see things exactly as they are in the present moment, right? So if you can keep your attention focused, not hyper focused, okay? Because hyper focus causes disease. Because literally like fixation, okay? You don't want to do that. So you have to take each moment and as it comes and just be interconnected. Because if you try to control every moment of your existence, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look. It's like literally like you literally want to control everything that's around you and everybody around you, and it's just really not good for you or anyone else to be ruled over like that. Because literally, um, it can give you intense feelings. Like the 5 stages of grief. Anger, fear. Acceptance, denial. Like all of those things can come along, and it can actually start to cycle itself like over and over and over again, so you get to understand that you just have to accept what's going on. Okay. um Literally when you accept things, not even just situations, is literally making an affirmation like, okay, I see things how they are, and rather than the way I think they should be, I'm just going to take it for what it is. Okay. Period. My soundboard hates me. Sorry about that, y'all. Like, why she hit that one? So didn't mean to do that. Um, so just keep in mind, right, that you can only change what's in the present moment. You can only change what's in now. Like when you focus too much on what happened in the past, or you hyper focus way too much on what's happening in the future, you got people telling you out here to make 10-year plans. And there's nothing wrong with making plans for your existence, but if you're hyper focusing on your future all the time, what kind of life are you leading right now? Are you even present in that life? Are you just floating through? Are you just on autopilot? Are you just a woman on pause? What are you actually doing? These are the questions you need to ask yourself, because are you living or are you just existing? Period. I'm just saying. You really need to ask yourself those questions, because if you are not satisfied with your answer, it's time to make a change where you can propel yourself into a better life, where you are not overextending yourself from your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and things that just bog you down, and you feel like you can't move and you're stagnated. Okay? So literally you have to just decide to, like, one day, like, hey, I'm gonna just not fight this anymore. That's just what it is, because once you do that, it won't feel like that struggle. That struggle won't exist anymore. That struggle won't exist anymore. And you're actually going to be like, you know what? I went through that. Now I can help other people, if I desire to get through it without using judgment or biases or anything of that nature. But just letting them know, like, hey, it's someone out here in the universe that been through that, and guess what I did? I accepted it for what it was, and it helped me liberate myself from that feeling, from that situation, from that anger, from that hurt, from that grief, because I accepted it and I actually processed it and moved through so I can heal. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind, because of course the next one coming after this is dun, 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 letting go, let it go, letting go. Okay. So I'm like, okay, Elsa, but no, letting go or non-attachment is definitely an essential attitude to mindfulness. A lot of people spend too much time and they're practicing the opposite attitude, clinginess and insecurities, and a lot of people don't even recognize that they're doing this. Okay, so whatever you're clinging to most strongly are ideas and the views that we have about ourselves, others, and situations, right? And it's like a low vibrational thing, and we're clinging on the inside. So it's hard to see that. You think, oh, I just love them. I'm just protective. I'm just this. I'm just that. No, you are just not letting people go to grow. It's not saying don't love people. It's not saying don't be around them, don't support them. It's just saying that you can't control everything. Everything is not within your grasp. Everything is not within your power. People are going to make decisions that upset you. People are going to make decisions that make you happy. People are going to make decisions that have nothing to do with you, and you have to just let it go. Period. So when you recognize that, like, hey, I'm paying attention to my inner chi, and I just let it go. And now, how do I feel? This is when journals come into play anyway, because a lot of things you notice that hey, even if it's a physical thing like objects or different things like that, like decluttering objects in your home or office environment, things of that nature outside of your home, whatever. Now, once it goes, you feel really great, right? So why is it so hard to break those emotional chains? Because what you're doing is you are using people or their energy to stay connected to situations that no longer serve you. That's why, okay? I need a moment. Excuse me. Moments over. Now, I'm going to say it one more time. Because you are using people and their energy to cling to them, to situations, places, things, feelings, thoughts that do not serve you. And you want to be somehow in control or to be controlled. Both are bad. Okay? Well, not bad. Let's not say bad, but both can have a devastating result on your journey to mindfulness. I'm all about rephrasing things and saying things in a more healthier manner. So I do apologize for using the word bad. That's not a word I like to use. Um, so it's extremely, 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 extremely important to remain present. Because if you get caught up in that whole good and bad thing, pleasant or unpleasant, high or low thing, um, you won't be able to experience life by the moment. I really don't have friends or people around me that always talking about, oh, you're being negative or oh, you're being positive. Like, you can go kick rocks, bro. Get away from me. Period. Okay. Because what they are doing is invalidating your human experience so they can live, without having to deal with your emotions, without having to deal with things they've done to you, without having to accept you for who you are. And there's a lot of people that do that are extremely toxic positive, okay? And that's just something that I suggest everyone in the whole world just knock it off, okay? Because the more you invalidate people, the more they suffer inside internally. And I'm not saying you're responsible for anyone suffering, but I'm just saying, at what point do you stop and recognize it's you? Okay. What point do you stop and just do some more work on yourself before you get out there in the world telling others, that they're low vibrational, that they're negative, that they need to be more positive when they're telling you something devastating? At what point do you just stop? Everything doesn't require a response. Everything doesn't require a fix. Sometimes you need to just be quiet and be there for people. We're all humans. We're all going through this experience. We're all growing and trying to do the best we can. And at what point do you ask yourself, should I stop now? Because nobody has the answer to everything in life. And most people, you can't even answer the answers that you have for yourself. So it's just wise to not judge others and to be patient and things of that nature. And when someone else is going through something, it's extremely okay to just be like, peace, be still, to just be there. Something we were talking about, and it goes right into this topic, was the audacity that people have when they don't even ask you, do you want advice anymore? They just give you advice on your life. And I think it's so rude and like it's such a boundary cross. It's such a red flag. You know, it's like I'm not interested in people that think they can dictate how I should live my life. or how I should be existing in this moment when, they're not focusing on their self and their own experience. I'm not into the whole course correction, self-effacing, misogynoir attitudes either. Period. Because that course correction comes from someone else's moral standards and ideals and is judgment. Literally saying, if you're not doing it my way, then you're doing it wrong. Period. Okay. And those type of people don't let go of shit. Hello? They got an answer to everything you should let go of. So, back to our conversation. If you want to just live and exist in mindfulness, a lot of the habits you have, you're going to have to drop them. And it's just, it's almost laughable. I don't laugh at people because I know it's wrong. I might giggle sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to cap on y'all. I'm not going to cap. I'm only human, living a human experience. I know I'm an alien most days, but I'm still human too. So, of course, we have our human moments where we're laughing, or, it's not even a judgment. Just like, that's crazy because, like sometimes, like some people are like, oh, I would never do that. Or sometimes it's like, you know what? I use my, using your discernment is just something that would be very helpful in life. That's all I gotta say about that. I don't think anything I've ever done or, especially since being more mindful, I'm like, oh, well, I did this and this person didn't do that. I don't think so. Because I always say this, listen, whatever you desire is right there at your fingertips, or you already have it. You just have to unlock it. So literally a lot of things we're upset over or a lot of things that we're impatient about, we already have. We already have it. It's just like you're too much on the outside of yourself, living out there in the world to even see it. And then you miss it by, you leave it by, you leave it there. Everything you were asking the universe for, or the creator that you serve, they already given it to you. They have already given you everything you need. You just need to get off your ass and get these tools so you can start, putting action behind it. And because you sit back and you do all the opposite of the things we spoke on today, that sometimes it's hard for you to see that everything you desire is right there in front of you. You know, when you begin to look at life like that, like what, everybody's going through a journey. As long as you just don't impede on minds, it's a healthier way because then you don't judge others. My whole thing is like, do you, boo? Just don't try to impede on my space while you're doing that. Period. Okay. And that's one of my favorite things to think like, okay, you do whatever you want to do on your end of the world. Just don't come over here, disrupting my peace, taking, bringing chaos and destruction over here. As long as you're not hurting my people and the people I love in the world, then me and you, we cool. Because I refuse to siphon my own energy or to be vamped because somebody else can't seem to get their shit together and don't even want to. That's not my business. It's not my intention to be my business. It's not none of that. I feel like people are too invested in what other people are doing and they're not invested enough in themselves. And so that's an entire part of letting go, because you can't let go of the idea that you need to be in control. You need to be people's business. You need to be the savior of the family. You need to be the savior of your friends. You know, everything works in divine timing and divine order. If your friend needs you, they'll come to you. If they want your help, they'll, sometimes they might not ask and you might ask them. And that's a great thing. That's nothing wrong with that. But you should not always be volunteering or overextending yourself to people. Use some of that energy for some self-care, some self-love, some self-reflection. And, if you desire to, be higher up there on the pyramid of, self-actualization and mindfulness, then use some of these tips that we gave y'all today. Period. Let me go check out Spoon, see who on Spoon today. I always do Clubhouse first, so let's check out Spoon today. Hi, I see some people on Spoon. Hey, babies. How y'all doing? Great rising. How are you? I hope y'all enjoying today. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate it. So let's go over to StreamYard. Hey, Shark Fin, how you doing? Hello? I don't say it like Freddie. like, I hope it don't sound like that on the podcast. I'm like, hello, hello. I didn't realize, like, oh my god, they got jokes for me on YouTube. So, but anyway, so thank you so much for coming out today. Let me go check out Clubhouse. Oh man, I almost forgot. So thank y'all so much on StreamYard. So I appreciate y'all coming out today. It was fun. And just make sure y'all share the link to the podcast with some friends, because this is some really great information. Now, my book is coming out soon. Yes, how to unfuck yourself, because it literally is in alignment with this entire series that we be doing on the podcast. So it's literally called How to Unfuck Yourself. So be on the lookout for that. With that being said, this has been Empress Coach Rena Nicole of RenaNicole.com, Divine Intervention Show and Podcast, the love experiences, and the curve.net. With that being said, this was the AM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up, streaming live from YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Clubhouse, Twitter, Spoon, Facebook, StreamYard, and Anchor. So you can find our podcast on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, everywhere else. Divine Intervention Show. With that being said, peace, y'all. Thanks for coming out. Happy Saturday.